we end with our preview of AEW Rampage tonight for the January 27th edition of AEW's second program of the week. And it is fitting that I feature Timothy Thatcher in the preview because Thatcher will be making his AEW debut next week on Dynamite. Tonight on Rampage, it is Powerhouse Hobbs will be in action against the local talent. Powerhouse Hobbs is one of the people that has not been actively featured on AEW programming in recent weeks and really lost a ton of momentum since his feud with Ricky Starks last year. So hopefully Powerhouse Hobbs can start getting back on track and getting some momentum rebuilt in 2023. Jamie Hayter will be going against Emi Sakura in the World Title Eliminator match tonight, as Jamie Hayter continues to showcase why AEW made the right choice, making her the women's champion and allowing her the opportunity to lead the brand. But it is also the first time in quite a while since we've seen Emi Sakura, which is always good to see some fresh faces and some talent that we have not seen for a little bit. Announced earlier today, a 6-man tag team match with Satnam Singh actually getting in the ring, teaming up with Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal against the Best Friends and Danhausen. So it will be Chucky T and Trent Beretta going against Danhausen against Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, and Satnam Singh in what I do believe to be Satnam Singh's first match on AEW programming, with, of course, Sanjay Dutt at ringside. It is fascinating to me how Jeff Jarrett is finding his way to become one of the most highly sought-after men in wrestling, even after all this time, and also how Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett evolved from the one-off tag team on the Ric Flair last match back last summer to becoming an active tag team in AEW less than a year later. Also in action tonight on Dynamite, Hangman Page against fellow BCC member Wheeler Yuta, which is fitting considering the fact that Hangman Page will be set to fight Jon Moxley this week on Dynamite. And the ongoing situation with Hangman Page and Mox, it is fitting that Hangman Page goes against a fellow BCC member, and with the fact that Bryan Danielson is busy with MJF, you knew it wasn't going to be MJF. You knew it wasn't going to be Danielson. So the only ones that are left are Claudio or Wheeler Yuta, but you have to wonder how often Claudio is going to be featured on AEW programming as the Ring of Honor World's Champion. And, you got to figure that Claudio would be protected as Ring of Honor World's Champion in his matches that he is featured on AEW programming. And I just found out the context of the World Title Eliminator because I know sometimes AEW does do tournament matches with the Title Eliminator to crown number one contenders. In this situation specifically, it is not to crown a number one contender, but if Emi Sakura is victorious against Jamie Hayter tonight, then Emi Sakura will earn herself a future AEW Women's Championship match So it does add a little nugget of jubilation for Emi Sakura in her match tonight against Jamie Hayter, because if she is victorious, it will not only give her another opportunity to be featured on programming, but it is a big opportunity for her to regain a ton of momentum, as she has, I don't want to say fallen by the wayside, but you have to wonder maybe if visa issues or whatever the circumstances might be for her not really being featured as much as she had been. But Shida, I feel like, was always the more featured or prominently featured person from across the Pacific. But it is always good, like I said, to see other talent featured from time to time. And it is also very strange, as far as Rampage is concerned, that we have gone this long without a title defense from the All-Atlantic champion Orange Cassidy. But AEW seems to be mixing things up, giving us championship title defenses from the other AEW champions. I also did mention that Mox vs. Page will clash this Wednesday on Dynamite, and also Timothy Thatcher against Bryan Danielson, which is making out to be quite an episode of AEW Dynamite next week. But as I've mentioned multiple times in these previews, if you are not doing anything tonight, and you're looking for something to do, you got wrestling on from 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 Central, to 11 p.m. Eastern Time, because you have SmackDown on Fox starting at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, and then from there, AEW Rampage on TNT. So it's a chock-full Friday night of wrestling action. Again, the question is, who's next? If Timothy Thatcher does defeat Bryan Danielson on Wednesday night, who would be next for MJF to challenge the American Dragon, as MJF continues to try and wear down Bryan Danielson in the build-up to Revolution and their Iron Man match set for MJF's second world title defense since becoming champion at Full Gear last year. But I also just want to point out that Rampage, I don't know. It seems like we talk about this a lot when I do the Rampage previews, about Rampage forming its own identity. And I do believe that that AEW is doing a bang-up job of trying to form at least somewhat of an identity for Rampage in 2023 by allowing champions to compete not just on Dynamite, but also on Rampage. The only champions, to my knowledge, that may not have competed on Rampage this year outside of MJF is the AEW World Tag Team Champions, the Acclaimed. As we've seen a number of title defenses from All-Atlantic Champion and Rampage mainstay Orange Cassidy, and also we've seen Darby Allin defend the title, and this is the first time we've seen Jamie Hayter. But if that's what the identity of Rampage is going to be, where you're going to entice fans to come in by seeing championship matches, or even open challenge matches where talent outside of AEW could join the roster for one night with their opportunity to become champion, I would also love to see a title eliminator tournament match, or title eliminator match, where somebody outside AEW like Timothy Thatcher or a Trent Seven could get the opportunity to if they defeat the champion, to get a rematch and return at a later date to challenge for the title. That would be an interesting bit and an interesting way to tie in them and, keep the fans guessing of what happens next when somebody who doesn't necessarily work for the company wins a match that you didn't expect. But either way, this has been my preview for AEW Rampage for January 27th. Again, if you're looking for something to do and it's 10 p.m. Eastern Time, turn on TNT and AEW Rampage, where you have the headline match, Hangman Page and Wheeler Yuta, as well as Jamie Hayter defending her AEW World Women's Championship against Emi Sakura in a world title match tonight. Or not actually. Actually, I will say again, I want to apologize before I go. It is not a world title match. It is not a championship match for Emi Sakura tonight against Jamie Hayter. If Emi Sakura is victorious, then she will get the title shot. I apologize for misspeaking earlier, but either way, if you're not doing nothing tonight, seems like another action-packed edition of Rampage on TNT is set for later tonight. So you got a good way to end the night. Either way, I will see you in the next video.